Welcome to the Dog Trainers Podcast,
a podcast created by dog trainers for dog trainers or anyone who's ever fallen in love with man's best friend.
All right, guys, again, welcome back to the Dog Trainers Podcast, and we thank you so much for listening, so let's get right back into it. So, Vinny, we've had, whenever we have guests on, we've been lucky enough to have some really prominent, well-known dog trainers on, and it's cool because a lot of them these days have kind of moved out of client dog training. Right now they're kind of doing seminars or book tours or all these fancy things. But, I think it's actually really fun and kind of helpful to have someone who's still just straight up working clients day after day like we are and like most trainers who listen to this are. So, if you could, let's talk a bit more about just clients and dealing with that on a daily basis. And I think that you were saying you normally have a new trainer with you.
Yeah. So let's talk about the trench work, right? Because this is where all the knowledge is, right? Everything you read from a book, seminar, which is extremely important, you know nothing until you actually get your hands on a dog, right? And I've been doing this a decade, and I see 4 or 5 clients every day, and I was seeing them 6 days a week my first 5-6 years. Now I'm seeing them 5 days a week, and we run group classes every fucking Saturday, every Sunday to a T. We run a group class with 32 dogs. You guys see those videos,
I love
and
those.
we pump it out. But this to me is I have a really hard time I know I'm going to have to let go of this at some point, right? Right, because I'm managing. I think we'll have 13 something employees. Managing a lot, but I love helping people, and I love the one-on-one aspect of it.
Yes.
And to Brent's point back earlier in the video where he said, you got to keep it interest. For me, seeing different people every day gives me a lot of life, right?
Yep.
Working
Right.
with new people, finding out, their story, finding out about their dog, trying to investigate, what they're telling me versus what the dog's actually telling me. That to me is everything. And I love that. I did do board and train for a very brief time, 5 years ago, maybe-ish. Don't quote me on that, but about 5 years ago. And I loved it, right? I like working with just one dog and seeing how far you can take a dog, because you can really take a dog far, right?
Right.
You can take them far. But I pride myself in being a human trainer. I pride myself on being that's my best skill, is working with people, and I don't want to give that away. And I also think there's a huge market for it, right? There's a huge market, and you can get paid very well, and you can pay your employees very well for private training. Obviously, this is a business at the end of the day, right?
Right.
And as much as, we all love this job, obviously we wouldn't be doing this and working fucking 16 hours a day if we didn't.
True.
But this is a business. And I think, from 2 standpoints, I learned a lot, training dogs every day. Like instead of just sitting home, running a business, so on and so forth, you just learn a lot. And you, like we talked about before, Brent, trying new shit, you learn a lot. Yep. We did the math on how many dogs I've seen, because I have, I think 1,200 appointments a year is what we measured out at. So you measure out 1,200 appointments a year, and how many people you see, and then how many dogs, because obviously the average family has more than one dog.
Right.
And you're like, dude, that's a lot of dogs you get your hands on over the course of 10 years. That's a lot of skill. That's a lot of knowledge, which is why you get to a position where you're at, is just because of trench work, right? You got to fucking earn your dues.
Right.
And
You got to clean up that shit,
Dude, 100%. I will tell you one thing that really fucking bothers me to a core. At one point, someone referred to me as a TikTok dog trainer. Not you guys. You said I had the best hair on TikTok. This was on I was on Good Morning America, and someone commented, "Oh, he's a TikTok dog trainer."
On national television?
No, it was
a
about
host
it, right?
Introduce you as that?
No. It was like before I was on the show. It was somebody said, "Yeah, he's a TikTok dog trainer." I'm like, "Hey, listen, I've been doing this 10 years, right?
Right.
I just a little bit more respect than just the TikTok dog trainer, because then other fucking people say that shit too, and then but yeah, dude. So I think you can learn a lot by just going to see a lot of clients, especially if you have a lot of knowledge, and you can help them quickly, which is a beautiful thing. And I bring trainers with me. So right now I have Donna with me. She's been with me about a month. She'll be with me and other trainers for a few months, learning her craft and experiencing everything, because she understands it, right? She was the physical therapist, and mentally she is so far, just because she's been studying dog training for a long time. But more importantly, she's just a very, very intelligent human being. And the hardest part, like anything, is once you get your hands on a dog, you're like, oh man, this is this is like, you're in it, right? It's different. And that's how they have to learn. And I don't, when you're teaching another dog trainer, you do not want to get upset. You don't, just like with a dog, right? Listen, you got to take your time. You got to put them in positions to win. You don't just go, hey, go figure that out. And then they fail, then they get frustrated, then they don't want to do it again. And then the cycle continues. And it sounds just like what? Just like training a dog, right? You put in a dog a position, they don't know what they should be doing, and it's too overwhelming. They become frustrated. They shut down. The next time you try to do it, they don't want to do it. They have no drive for it. And you can see the same thing happen with people. And right now with Donna, right? So I actually have her tell me, what's the dog's issue? Like, what do you see? And she'll explain it to the client. Perfect. Or I go, let's walk that back. Now this is what's actually going on, but hey, that's awesome. Right. But that's how you learn. So she'll be with me. And then I have another trainer, Emily, who is an experienced dog trainer. She's been working dogs for 5 years. She's coming from Ohio to live in Pittsburgh for 3 months, then to move back out to Ohio. So she comes from a really good dog training business out in Ohio. We just happened to chat. We linked up. It worked out really well, and so I brought her to my team. She came in for the first time, right? So we talked about 4, 5, 6 hours worth on FaceTime. I'm like, dude, this is perfect. This is, she's perfect for what I need. And she comes from a background of board and trains, a very good board and train program who uses e-collars a lot, right? That on every dog that comes in the program, they use e-collars, which is cool. It is what it is. And she goes, I'm most excited to see what you do because you don't use e-collars. And I'm curious to see how you can make behavior change. And so she came in on a Friday, and we had 3 new clients and a follow-up client. So our news sessions are like 2-ish hours, maybe a little over, a little under, right? Okay. So we had 2 new clients and then a follow-up session, or 3 new clients and a follow-up session. And I'm good at my job, right? I know I'm good at my job. I was as good as my job as I've ever been on this day, right? You were
just in the zone. Yeah.
Because you're like, oh fuck, she's coming out. She's another dog trainer.
Right.
I would want to fucking fly my flag out there and be like, dude, like this is the Say It Once brand, and I fucking rocked it, right? Just rocked it.
I love that.
And she's like, I can't believe that you can do all of this in a session. Then what was more important was not just the session. We make our clients send us an update in a week, which I highly recommend clients do, or trainers do. You got to have them send an update because it keeps them honest. Fucking right. So you need to send me an update in a week, right? I want to hear it. Even if I don't care what it is, just send it to me. So I screenshotted the 3 updates and I sent them to her, and she was like, that is insane, right? How much change? Because we were working, one dog was an extremely fearful, reactive pit bull who wouldn't go for a walk and was just lunging at all these dogs, but in the building, in the apartment building, but wouldn't go for a walk outside of the building, right? So we worked that dog. And I was like, hey, I'm going to show you how to work a dog on a harness first. She's like, what? I'm like, well, a dog has a harness on. I'm going to show you how to, you can train a dog using anything. Anything, right? So the first dog she sees me fucking train is a pit bull and a harness for the first 15, 20 minutes. And I'm like, all right, then we went and got our slip lead. We worked the dog in a slip lead, did a couple of our figure 8 drills, mixed in with some shit that we do. And I went through my program, right? And she was, she was like, dude, this is awesome. I'm actually so excited. And I was more like, this is awesome. I'm excited because I always knew we were good, but I'm like, she's a great dog trainer.
Yep.
And it's nice to get that validation. And, my girlfriend was like, hey, are you nervous? Right. Cause I told her, I'm like, well, I'm excited. She goes, are you nervous? I'm like, I think I'm a little jazzed up. I'm like, I don't want someone to fucking come out here and be like, oh, he sucks. So yeah, man. So I bring the trainers with me, and I kind of went on a tangent. I'm known for doing that. I apologize.
But you bring it back. That's all that matters.
Yeah. But I love the in-home dog training. I think monetary wise, it's significantly better for myself and for my employees. My employees make a really good living, and because I would prefer that they're not my employees, I would prefer that they're my family, and I would like them to be here forever. Because it's nice that way. Like it's really, really, they're just good people. They're my friends. You know what I mean? They're not just my employees. And I think you can help more people. Like I said, I have 1,200 appointments a year. It's not like I see the same person 10 times. And the one thing that we do different, I am going to mention this. The one thing that we do different that other people don't is I don't offer packages. I offer a pay-as-you-go style training. I don't want you to buy 10 sessions because there's a chance I won't need to see you 10 times. Yeah. And I don't want you to buy 5 sessions because there's a chance you may not like exactly what I do, even though you fucking see everything that I do online, right? I put it all out there. So I like the, hey, listen, if you want 7 appointments, great. If you want 1 appointment, 3 appointments, whatever it ends up being, cool. And what we start to see the trend of is we see our clients on day 1, and depending on how, what type of dog the issues were, as long as, depending on where we get our leash skills, because that's what we focus a lot on. And I talk about leash skills or life skills for a dog, because you can take a dog anywhere if you can take them on a leash, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only requirement for a dog.
Yeah.
So if we can master these leash skills and we give them a program for their first few weeks and they get to a point where they feel confident, we bring them right into group class. Right after the first session, 2-3 weeks in, we're into class. We're around 32 dogs. We're learning these drills. And the dogs just fall in line because they see 29 other dogs who are following in line and following the same order. And then we go back in 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks, depending on the dog, and another group class. Right. And then maybe another 7 weeks, we'll go back to their house again.
I love that.
And then the group classes, more than anything else, one, it gives people interaction with them and their dog, and people crave this shit. People crave our classes. And 2, it keeps them honest. It keeps them accountable. I'm going to go to this class. Vinny's going to fucking watch me. And he has
and so will
1.7 million followers. Exactly. He's going to embarrass me. So I got to fucking do it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we run our program in a nutshell. And I don't think I'll ever change from the in-home. I love it.
Yeah. I love teaching personally myself. I think both of us, I think that we're cut from a very similar cloth, you and I. We're both extroverts. We both get energized by people. We both have slightly
extremely good looking,
extremely good looking, little ADD-ish. And that creativity, right? Like, I love group classes, and it's kind of cool. Yeah. Cause just recently I used to sell packages, and just when I started my own company, I was just like, fuck the old models, fuck this, fuck that. Right. And the more dog trainers we get to talk to, like the more we get to see like different formats of how you get the job done. Right. Cause when I started, it was, you do a group class, you do a package of privates, or you do board and train. Cause that was the model my business did. Right. And then, and I realized when I started my own company, I was like, you can mix this up however the fuck you wanted, right?
There's no rules.
There's no rules. It's your own company, or you're the trainer, right? And what I really love is actually what you talked about, which is like, I do a couple privates and then I integrate them into group class right away, right? So I'll integrate them to a higher level group class. So all of our board and trains, what we do is we require them to do private lessons while the dog is in training. So if the dog's for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, they come every single week, A, to visit their dog, and B, to learn some shit, whatever that dog learns. So they have to learn the scaffolding as we're going up the ladder. Then what we do
I'm stealing that line. That's a great fucking line. Everybody who listened to that's a really, really good line. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I have to take this in because that is a very genius way to do things. I actually love that, Brent. Bring them in every week so they can learn as much as
possible. Yeah, as much as possible. Because like sometimes in board and trains, people are going on vacation.
Yeah, people are traveling, especially like right now, 4th of July and stuff like that. Yeah.
And you know who taught us that? We know who taught us that? Michael Ellis.
Michael Ellis, yeah.
Michael Ellis taught us that. And so ever
how
since
many
that,
times can we give one guy a compliment one day?
I mean, because he's a G. He's a G. But, but there's also, and he's probably not the one. He didn't invent that shit, but he's the one that met us and talked to us about it, right? And so that idea of what we do in the board and train is we do that. We make sure that as the dog's scaffolding, that they learn every step of the way. Then we send the dog home. And then what we do is we offer private sessions for contextual issues, like maybe that dog's protective of their home. But all those private sessions are free from that point on, right? And then what we do is we offer unlimited access to all of our higher level group classes. So we have what's called an alumni course, and that alumni course is every graduate from a board and train program. That's where I have my 15 clients, in a group class that I was so proud of, but you do 30 something. And I was just like, I want to do 30 something, right? Simply because it looks cool. And I love people, and I love that vibe that you get in a group class. But anyways, so that's something that I've been able to kind of cultivate in my own company, and it's worked phenomenally. It's not only worked for me, you know, as an entertainer, because I really like to entertain and talk to people and connect and kind of guide the crowd to do what I need them to do. But for my staff, what it's really done, and it's really helped them, you know, because I don't necessarily do all the pre-go home lessons. My staff does. So their job is to teach leash fundamentals. Their job is to go to that client and teach, you know, how to mark properly. Their job, whatever that lesson is, you know, you get to break down these very, very small lessons. And my newer trainers, people that have been with me 4 or 5 months, you know, they get to kind of test their teaching chops, right? And one of the big things with my company is just a matter of like, you have to be a great educator. You have to work on being a good educator. And we actually, our episode before this episode, we talked a lot about what was it called again? Like, what did we call it?
It was called Teaching Owners to Lead, and we were talking about exactly this. So it was kind of funny because you know, Vinny, you said that you were going off on a tangent, but it just so happens that you kind of walked right into a direction of what we were talking about in the previous episode, which isn't out yet. So you know, it's
a sickness. I can't even help it.
Yeah, it's in the air.
Well, it's a pretty accurate. It's a cool sickness. So what we were talking about in our last episode, which will be up probably.
Well, it'll be up before
Monday,
this one,
right? Yeah, it'll be up a week before this one.
Yeah.
We were talking about the importance of teaching owners to be proper leaders for their dog, but of course that spills into how do you teach trainers to teach owners? And we were talking about Brent and I both kind of implemented this new program of bringing clients in before the board and train is done, like aroundish the same time. I was doing this thing to where I would bring them in just once, like if it's like a, you know, whatever, 3, 4, 5 week program, I would bring them in once, like the week before the dog went home. And it was a nice way to kind of help sparse out all the information that you had to give them at the go home lesson. And, you know, and it was a secret little benefit that I would tell owners about in like a joking manner, just to make it like fun for them because they're happy to see their dogs, but they have to leave them again is, you know, dogs, depending on what the issue is, they see the owner and they're happy and everything's great and they do a lesson, but then the owner leaves and the dog's like, what the fuck? So they have one more week with me and they're kind of being a bit stubborn because they're like, where the hell is my mom? You know, which is great because then it allows me to make sure that we continue to push and we're not just like coasting out this last week and it stays beneficial and it stays like busy, you know? So when we talked to Michael Ellis, then Brent and I tried that, you know, we tried it out and we were like, you know what, let's do lessons with people every week. And like he was saying, sometimes they're out of town or whatever, but when possible, it's important to have them learn as the dog learns, you know, not just kind of catch up after the fact. And the point that we were alluding to is something that was really beneficial for our trainers, for our staff, is to be able to run a lesson like this or even watch a lesson like this with a dog that, you know, there is no stress or no pressure for the dog to look perfect because they're not done. And there is no stress or pressure for the owners because they don't have this looming feeling of like, shit, I hope I don't forget all this stuff because the dog's coming home with me and like I want to make sure I get this right. You just have to focus for 1 hour and then go home. And then I'll see you again next week and same thing, right? And there's something very beneficial, at least in my view, about having owners literally see the dog learn. You know, so like you'll bring an owner in.
They don't
like
take the training for granted as much.
Right. Well, and I've noticed like to a profound extent, when owners see the dog go through their lessons, like the end of week 1, they come in for a lesson, we do food work or whatever the case, you know, and they're like, oh, I get it, and I'm really focusing more on like timing and, you know, do it like this and like this, and then week 2, when we progress on to the next thing. Now that they've seen week 1 themselves, they're like, whoa, I get it now. Like I understand, not only do I understand what you're telling me today, I understand the correlation of this versus a week ago and so on and so on.
You Miyagi them.
Right. You waxed on, waxed off them, bro.
Yeah. So, but one thing that you're talking about, which I think is really important for trainers to understand as well, like as I'm watching this on my computer, there's an uploading thing, right? So there's a lot of information, a lot of data that's coming from this podcast that's going out to the web and it says 35% downloaded, right? So if you do only one session at the end of your board and train or whatever it ends up being, what percentage of information are these people able to retain is the question. Now, and even if it's, so for my end, right, I see people a few times, right? So I make them do the legwork. I guide them through the process.
Right.
I, at the beginning, would always leave going, did I give them, I didn't give them enough, right? So I'd give them so much information and I would go back and I'm like, this is like my first few years, I would like give them everything. and they're like, oh my God, they're overwhelmed, right?
Yep.
And
yep,
they didn't,
exactly.
They didn't perfect any of it.
Right.
Right.
Now,
Masters of none.
I go over and I have our 4 or 5 basic things I want to hammer out. And and now the person's able to retain all this, simplify it. You don't overstress the fucking human who stresses the dog out. Because once again, it all comes back to the communication from me to you, then from you to there. And there's gonna lose something in translation, right? From me to the owner. But the goal is to limit how much they lose, or how much they don't retain. So if you can get that person to understand, just like you're talking about now, and that's honestly kudos to you guys, because that is brilliant. That's a really good. I don't know when you guys started doing
2-3 months ago. Would you say, Brent?
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah. No, I think probably closer to 6. I think. I mean,
oh really? 6-7 months ago. Has it been that long since we've had Michael?
No, we had Michael Ellis back in March.
Oh my God!
Right when COVID started.
Well, a minute ago. Oh yeah, right when COVID. Oh yeah,
that was a
you're
year
right.
ago.
That was a year ago. Fudge.
Yeah.
This is season 2. I forgot.